All right, guys, so I want to share with you a pretty deep concept that I'm calling creating what is. And so hang with me. If you hang with me for this whole video, you're going to see something that can actually have an extraordinary impact on your life. I don't say that lightly, I mean it, but it takes some time to explain, and it's pretty deep. So hang with me. You're going to like it. Creating what is just a phrase that I literally just birthed 30 minutes ago, and it's a riff on a phrase, loving what is, which comes from the work of Byron Katie, who's kind of spiritual teacher who I am very fond of, and whose work has created a lot of liberation for me in my life. So if you don't know of her, check out her work. But she wrote a book called Loving What Is. And the essence of that, I mean, there's a process that she offers to achieve the result that her work offers, which is peace and well-being and groundedness and just joy in life. And the process she calls the work, you can go and look at that. It's free on the internet at thework.com. But she, the phrase loving what is kind of encapsulates the essence of the philosophy, which is like, what is, and any suffering that you have, any problem in your life is actually your resistance to that what is. Your resistance to what is actually occurring in the world is what creates all of your suffering. And so the alternative is to love what is, not just to allow it, but to allow it in a form of love, to fall in mad love with what is actually occurring, what is, to love what is. And if you can do that, when you do that, you find an immense peace and a welcoming of life and a joy with life, no matter what's occurring. And it can get pretty extreme and pretty wild, but I've found it to be very liberating. And foundational to the work of what I call creating, which is to create our reality, foundational to the creating perspective, and my idea of creating is being okay with what is, loving what is. I've also come to that path through Vipassana meditation and Tibetan Buddhism, and also through Taoist philosophy. It's like the three principles, lots of different ways of actually, through the work of Friedrich Nietzsche, amor fati, just love of fate. Being okay with what is actually occurring is the foundation of being at peace in the world. Philosophically, the way into that is to have an existential perspective where you realize that everything that you're experiencing is being created through the illusion of your mind putting meaning against the material world out there. There is an out there, but it's our experience of it happens because we construct it based on these illusions that we live in, these maps of meaning that we create. So there's lots of way into the reward that loving what is gives you. I just happen to like loving what is as a path, but there are many paths. And to me, that's the foundation of being able to create powerfully, is to not resist what is actually and already there. And once you're relaxed and your body's at peace, and your mind opens and you're connected to your creativity, then you have much more power to create something other than what is. So I want to take you into that right now. So that's where my focus is. When I say creating what is, it includes within it the primary act of, you could say, loving what is, being okay with what is, allowing what is. And from that ground, that foundation, then what's next? What's beyond loving what is? Not to say that there's something beyond it in its direct and primary intention, which is to create peace and groundedness and well-being. I'm saying once you are connected with that, once you are happy with what is, then what's next? What's beyond that? And my belief is that our purpose isn't just to enjoy, but it's to create, right? I want to make love because I enjoy the pleasure of it, but that also has a secondary purpose, which is to create life, to birth something new, to conceive, to bring into the world, to bring into form, whether it's genetically or mimetically. That my purpose is creation. I am creation, creating itself. And so what's beyond loving what is, for me, is creating what is. So through that love making with what is, what gets created, how do we create into new form? And I love the work of Martin Heidegger, and his work is around being in time, Sein und Zeit, and he talks about being as the expression of ideas and meaning. right? A human being. There's a human, but there's a human being, the beingness of a human. So the word is just another variant of the same verb, to be, is, was, being, to be, to is, you could say. So loving what is loving what's being, what is being, loving what bees, we could say. And so to create what is to create the being of something or somebody. We could say I create who I am. Am is another version of that same verb. What I am, what I was, what I is. You don't say it that way, but these are the same. It's the same word, to be, in different forms. And so to create who I am is the same exact work as to create what is. Well, where is what is? It's inside this mind. And so you've been watching my work for a while, that you know that a lot of my work is about creating and cultivating an identity, but as important as that, and in some cases even more important than that, is creating a reality, creating a map of meaning in the world, because we actually live as the expression of a certain way of interpreting reality, right? I live as an expression of who I think I am, but I also live as an expression of what I think the world is. Gravity is, right? Things fall. So I relate to the world as if that happens. It's not, gravity isn't who I am, gravity is what is, right? Cars are hard, like guns are deadly. And so when I see a gun, I have fear. It's not like I am afraid of guns. It's like, okay, you could say it that way, but what we actually live is the expression of what is. And so this lives in our brain. Subconsciously, we are acting out the operating system of what we believe the world is. So another way of seeing how deep this is, I've learned a lot through studying pretty much all the books in the work of George Lakoff. He's a cognitive scientist, a philosopher, and he wrote the kind of landmark book. The biggest one for me was Metaphors We Live By. And he shows through his studies and research that we actually conceptualize the world through layers of metaphor, right? And as you start to listen to the way people speak, metaphors are in everything, right? You're not just like an analogy, but like we actually live out the expression of a metaphor. So for example, I noticed that in language, people express money as different things. And so some people live as if money is an object, right? And all of the metaphors that they use are related to that. Like it requires labor, I have to do some heavy lifting, I have to do work and trade time, and through my labor, my effort, I move these objects, and then money comes in, and the moving money from this place to that, it's like, is a heaviness to it. And you can just tell when people talk about, they relate to money as an object. It requires time and labor to acquire it, to get it. But there's other people that relate to money as a liquid, right? And so when you see money as a liquid, it's got to get in the flow, right? Let me redirect some of that over in this way. And the relationship to money as liquid has a different dynamic and energy and feel than people who relate to money as an object. When money is a liquid, I make a little change, I open this thing up over here, I have one little conversation, and the flow just comes in. There's an ease about it. And if you start to pay attention, people that have an ease around money will conceptualize money differently. They'll actually have a different map in their neurology and their psychology around what money is. Money is object versus money is liquid. And so one of the things that I've done in my work of creating my world and my experience is to intentionally reconceptualize money as liquid instead of an object. And I go into in depth on how I do that in some of my other videos for my clients. But right here, I just want to get the point across that there is a way of being in the world in which we are acting. All of our ways of being in the world are acting out a certain way of interpreting the world. When we think the world is something, we relate to it in that way. So I'll share another example around how I consciously changed what the world is. What is? So I realized that for most of my life, I thought that hunger is a signal to eat. That's just what if you feel hunger, that means you're supposed to eat. Hunger is signal to eat. That was like how I related to it in my mind. And so when I felt that feeling, the automatic and healthy response was to eat. Hunger means eat. I never questioned it. It was just what the world was. And lots of people out there believe that too. So we've got agreement that adds to the map and to the meaning. So it's an unconscious automatic response to a feeling is to eat, because that's what the feeling's for. That's its purpose, that's its function. And that was just fact. And it was subconscious. So I had a subconscious way of conceptualizing what is around hunger that had me eat. And now here's where we tie loving what is into creating what is. So To love what is a means of being at peace with what is, to be in joy and to happiness. That doesn't mean we love what is because it's true. We love what is because it's happening and we're experiencing it. If we resist it, we suffer. So I love what is not because it's true, and also not because it's immutable. Because I actually believe that just because it is doesn't mean it can't not be. I love what is because of the power that it gives me to be at peace with it, which then gives me power to create with it. If I'm resisting what is, it has power over me. I have no power over it. If I love what is, I'm at peace with what is. And then suddenly its isness becomes subject to my power, because I can see my experience of it is being generated by the meaning that I'm making of it. So I can ask myself, once I'm at peace with what is and I'm okay with it, I'm not resisting, I can ask, how am I even creating that in the first place? How am I thinking about hunger? How am I making meaning about hunger to have that feeling mean that I have to eat? Well, I have got the idea that hunger means you're supposed to eat. Well, really, is it? What if I were to question that? What if I were to be up for questioning everything, as I am? All right? There's not an experience that I'm having about what is that isn't created by my own map of what means what in the world. And so I'm going to challenge it. So now that I'm loving what is, I'm loving the fact that I feel that I have to eat every time I'm hungry. Now let me question, why am I even feeling that in the first place? How am I conceptualizing that? And I start to write, I free write, hunger is, blah, 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 blah. What comes up? What do I see? And I start to uncover to myself all of the isness. What is the isness? What do I actually see and believe about what is? And once I can see it, then I can take a bird's eye view and be like, wow, that's how I'm conceptualizing hunger. Of course I'm going to eat every time I'm hungry. Why would I not? To not would be to operate in contrast with how I actually make meaning in the world and about myself and about my internal experience. If you're hungry, you should be eating, right? My kids are hungry, they should eat. If it's dinner time, it's time to eat. Eat everything on your plate. It's like there's ideas that live in us and we express them. And it's healthy and functional that we express the ideas that we have. If we didn't, that'd be fucked up, right? It makes sense. It doesn't make it true. Don't resist it. Love it. But then once you're loving it, you can actually create it differently. And so I intentionally reconceptualized what hunger is for me. I went into the research. I mean, this is going deeper into what we really need to, but I read about hunger, the science of it. How does a hunger pain get created? What is it doing? And I learned about how it's the wave of electromagnetic or electric impulses that move food out of your stomach and into your lower intestinal system, so that it gets like the extra bacteria out. I'm not into the details of it, but enough to understand that what was really happening is that when I was experiencing hunger pains, it was my body cleansing itself, moving stuff through the system. And also, when I was experiencing that, it was the beginning of the reallocation of energy from the process of digestion in my stomach to other areas of my body, like cellular regeneration. And so it's like, wow, when I'm experiencing hunger, my body is cleansing itself and healing itself. So what's more true than hunger is a signal that you have to eat? What's actually more true, I'm creating truth here, not finding it, creating it. What's more true is that hunger is healing. And when I spoke that, I heard like this, like the angels singing. It was like, boom, that's the idea. That's like the money is liquid, right? Hunger is healing. And I started to inculcate that as a conceptualization. I flesh it out. I find more detail to it. I remind myself of it like a mantra. I look to contextualize it and conceptualize it in ways that make it more real for me. And over time, I update the operating system of my subconscious, where I actually start to feel that feeling of hunger. And when I feel the waves, it's like, wow, there's a joy that my body's healing itself. I don't want to shut that system off by putting food in my mouth. Let's let that run. And now it's been, 6 months, a year since I've been being with that idea, and it lives in me unconsciously in the way that hunger means I have to eat used to. And I will unconsciously, automatically relate to the experience of hunger in the exact opposite way that I used to. And it's not because I'm resisting what is. It's because what is has changed. And what is has changed because what is the dance between the unfolding of the universe and the way that I conceptualize that unfolding, the meaning I make of it. I don't have to resist it if it's something that is for me, that's beautiful, that's useful, that works, that creates the universe that I want to create, right? So if it's coherent with my values, there's no need to resist it. I'm loving hunger. I could love what is before. hunger, it means I have to eat. I just love that. And I relax around it. And I want to say also that oftentimes, loving what is leads to creating what is automatically. Because when we take our hands off the steering wheel of life, it starts to unfold in a way where it creates a higher level of coherence. So this is another reason why, for me, loving what is, being at peace with what is the foundation to creating. Because to try to create some new idea around what is, without being totally at peace with it at first, I'm more likely going to create more incoherence. I'm going to try to jam something in and fix something because I think it's broken. But that thinking something's broken means that I'm creating what is next from the idea of brokenness. And so I can only create brokenness from brokenness. So a lot of the possibility to see the idea hunger is healing probably only came because I was loving myself as I saw that the way that I was operating with food was from just one fixed idea, and I wasn't judging that. In the process of just figuring out what you think the world is, when you uncover the production of isness in your psyche, in your subconscious, if any of that leads to you thinking that's not okay or that's wrong and you're judging it, then you start resisting what is and your production of what the world is and the way that you make meaning, and you get yourself in a knot. So it's loving what is to open yourself to seeing how you create what is, and then loving that too. Loving how you create what is. Nothing wrong with it. For 40 years, I believed, 36 years. So maybe when did I learn this? When I was learning how to write, 4, 5, 6 years old. My handwriting was terrible. And I learned the idea, somebody said to me, it will always be that way. Some people's handwriting just never changes. And I believed my whole life that that's what it was. And then I realized that was like a spell was cast on me, and I just bought into that my whole life, and that's why my handwriting had never gotten any better since I was in kindergarten. And once I dispelled that, then it started to change, but I don't want to skip the piece here. If I had judged myself, resisted that for all that time, if I get upset at that, it's like, oh my gosh, I've just been believing that my whole life, and I'm laughing and I'm smiling and I'm loving that I've been not loving my handwriting for so long unconsciously. All of a sudden now I'm free, and now I can start to create. And so when you love what is, there's creative energy, there's possibility. And what creating what is it says it's not wrong to go with the creative spirit to actually start to create a new way of seeing the world that's counter to what it was before. That's not resistance if it's an embrace of possibility that unfolds through your allowing. So creating what is about constructing a new way of conceptualizing reality that creates more of what you want, more of what you would deem useful, more of what you would deem beautiful. And it happens best and most powerfully on a foundation of loving what is exactly as it is. And some of the ways that you can create what is, one of the ways I guess I shared today, is to look at how we are conceptualizing reality in the metaphors that we use. How are we speaking about what is in such a way where we're conceptualizing in such a way that's even producing that problem or that situation in the first place? So it might not be something that doesn't feel, it just might be a behavior, like working out or a relationship to a partner. So there's what is, there's who I am, who she is, what they are, right? How do I see when it comes to the race conversation, or like transgender, the ideas that I hold about people based on their skin color? That's part of how we conceptualize reality. Is that useful? Is that beautiful? In any place that I see that it's not, let me change that. One of the other things I'm working on right now is bringing into consciousness my whiteness, the ways of seeing the world that are part of the culture of being a white dude. Like, how many things am I missing? How many things could I see differently? In the same way that's like, to see hunger means I have to eat. Like, how am I seeing the world in such a way that's contributing subconsciously to racial bias? How can I change that and see in ways that are less colorblind, right? Because color blindness is where racism lives, not the solution to it. Anyway, I could talk about this, as you can see, for a long time. I hope that you at least get the idea that you can create not just who you are, but you can create what is, and that will augment your experience of reality. It will augment how you feel. It will change what actions and behaviors arise in your mind and come through you and move through you, which will change your material results in your life, will change your life. That was my promise at the beginning. I meant it, I mean it. If you'd like to learn more about this, I highly recommend you check out our Creating School, or at least sign up for my Creating Insights by email. You get these long videos and short form emails. And if you want to be in conversation where I actually partner with you and help you in learning how to create yourself and to create your world and to create your results, then reach out to me, let's talk. Thank you so much for being here. Much love. Bye for now.